You wake up one morning, and it hits you. The emptiness, the weight, the strange feeling that you're here, but somehow, not really here. You go through your day, you smile, you work, you scroll, but underneath it all, there's that quiet ache that says, I don't know who I am anymore. It feels like failure, like confusion, like losing yourself. But what if I told you, it's not weakness, it's biology, it's psychology, it's human. This is the science of why you feel lost. From the moment you were born, you were told a story. Know what you want, have a plan, be somebody. So you tried, you built dreams, you chased expectations, you became what the world applauded, but one day, you stopped and realized, none of it feels like you. Psychologists call this identity diffusion, a moment when the self becomes scattered, stretched thin between who you were told to be and who you really are. It happens when your external life grows faster than your internal understanding, when your achievements outpace your alignment. You're not lost because you have no direction. You're lost because you've been walking towards someone else's destination. Your brain is a prediction machine. It survives by knowing what comes next. But when life shifts, when your job changes, your relationships break, your values evolve, the mind loses its map, and without a map, it panics. Neuroscience calls it cognitive dissonance. The stress that comes from holding two versions of yourself that don't fit anymore, the person you were, and the person you're becoming. That friction, that restlessness, that's the sound of transformation. Your brain isn't broken. It's just trying to redraw the map. Every time you get a message, a like, a win, your brain releases dopamine, the chemical of reward. But over time, you stop chasing meaning. You start chasing dopamine. You scroll when you're sad. You work when you're empty. You fill silence with noise. Not because you want to, but because your mind is addicted to stimulation. It's not that you're lost. It's that you've forgotten how to sit still long enough to find yourself again. This is the paradox of modern life. We've never been more connected. En dat we zijn vrouw dauer, bodedi regine vrouw, en dat we gauw douwen en durgeen zien, en dat we bro, and had never felt more disconnected. Your emotions are signals. Each one carries information. Sadness says, something needs to change. Anxiety says, something feels uncertain. Numbness says, you've ignored yourself for too long. But when you don't listen, your brain turns down the volume. That's when life starts to feel empty, not because it is, but because your awareness went quiet. 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 Psychologists call this emotional suppression. And when you suppress emotion, you suppress direction. Because your feelings are how your soul speaks. And silence always feels like being lost. We define ourselves by roles: daughter, son, student, professional, lover, dreamer. But when one of those roles ends, a piece of identity collapses. That's why heartbreak feels like death. Why losing a job feels like losing purpose. It's not just change, it's grief. Psychologists call it identity mourning. It's what happens when your mind hasn't caught up to who you've become. You're not broken, you're just between stories. And between stories, it's okay not to know who you are. Because confusion isn't the end of you, it's the beginning of your next chapter. The feeling of being lost isn't the absence of direction, it's the invitation to find a deeper one. Your mind looks outward for meaning, but meaning isn't out there, it's in the moments that make you feel alive. When you create, when you help, when you rest, when you feel wonder. Each of these moments is your internal compass whispering, this way. So instead of asking, what should I do with my life? Ask, what makes me come alive? Because your nervous system knows the way long before your logic does. When we lack self-trust, we fear making significant decisions. We do not trust ourselves to 1, make decisions independently, and 2, handle the consequences of our own choices when they show up. Why? Because we have trained ourselves to rely on external factors to guide us, and invariably, make our choices for us. However, when things don't work out as we expect them to, then we have someone else to blame. I did not choose this. I did this because you told me to. I have to do this because I have no other choice. Or, I cannot change now. Too many people are invested in me getting here. We dodge responsibility for our choices and their consequences. So, how on earth do you start cultivating self-trust when you have spent a lifetime outsourcing it to everyone else? First and foremost, start making decisions for yourself and quit the people-pleasing habit. If you want to learn more about this self-sabotage behavior, I would recommend you check out this article. Begin with the small stuff. Decide what you really want for supper. Pick the restaurant you prefer. Choose the investment you believe in, or even just the color sweater you actually like. Secondly, once you have made a decision, stick with it, no matter how guilty or uncomfortable it feels. And trust me, it will feel highly uncomfortable at first. Embrace that awkwardness. Making decisions for yourself is going to be like wearing shoes on the wrong feet initially, but hang in there. The more you wear it, the comfier it gets. Thirdly, if any consequences of your decisions come up, like realizing you have made a mistake or chosen poorly, remember, it is okay. You won't die, no one is going to abandon you, and if they do, honestly, good riddance, and your life is not over. Face the consequences head on. It gives your brain the evidence it needs to know that you can overcome life's difficulties and rely on yourself to see things through. Then, once the smaller stuff becomes easier, start making bigger, more permanent decisions where the risk of making the wrong choice is higher. Either you will celebrate having made a really tough decision and it paid off, or you will have an opportunity to absorb the consequences and rely on yourself to pull yourself through. Finally, rinse and repeat. Make a decision, learn from it, and keep going. By doing so, you are chipping away at your own insecurities around agency. You prevent yourself from becoming an insecure overachiever who ends up chasing titles for an internal sense of security, or an entrepreneur who is in constant pursuit of more wealth. Now, I am not advocating that you should bolster through life all by your lonesome self. We all need people in our lives, especially when times are tough. We need reassurance from others that things will be okay, even if we have made the wrong choice. Moreover, we find inspiration and encouragement from others when we doubt ourselves. The key difference is to not ignore that internal drive, nudging you to make a certain decision that is right for you. Do not wait around for someone else to point you in a direction for you to make something of your life. Do not wait for some external person or thing to provide you with the script for the next chapter of your life. Take the pen and start writing the next chapter yourself. It is far more authentic, meaningful, and fulfilling. When you feel lost, your brain activates the same regions as when you experience pain. That's why it hurts. It's not just confusion, it's neurological distress. But here's the beauty, the same brain that panics in uncertainty also rebuilds itself through it. Neuroplasticity. Your brain's ability to rewire and adapt. Every new choice, every act of courage, every moment of stillness rewrites your map. You're not failing, you're recalibrating. When you finally stop searching for the old version of you, you make space for the new one. You realize that being lost was never punishment, it was preparation. Preparation for authenticity, for clarity, for presence. You don't need to find your path, you need to find your pace. One breath, one choice, one honest moment at a time. More and more people are feeling stuck, directionless, and unsure of which path is theirs to walk. As someone dedicated to helping others reconnect with themselves and find their way, I have noticed this unsettling trend becoming increasingly prevalent. Whether it is a sign of the shift in our modern times or something more deeply rooted, one thing is clear: this pervasive sense of directionlessness is a growing concern that demands our attention. Now, I have a few theories of my own of why this might be the case. It seems like we are more disconnected from our true selves than ever before. The relentless pressure of FOMO, fear of missing out, and FOBO, fear of better options, leaves us feeling anxious and unfulfilled. On top of that, we are drowning in endless choices, overwhelmed and paralyzed by the sheer number of possibilities at our disposal. Add to that our constant distractibility and a deep-seated fear of discomfort, and it is no wonder we feel so lost and directionless. However, there is another deeper-rooted internal part that pushes us astray and which often goes unacknowledged: self-trust. Now you may be wondering, what does my level of self-trust have anything to do with the directionlessness of my life? Trust in oneself is fundamental to achieving a sense of purpose and direction in life. Without it, you will invariably be that plastic bag that gets tumbled about by external factors. The lack of self-trust is particularly evident in high-achieving perfectionistic individuals, and it generally only shows its face at the end of a predetermined path or career trajectory. Let me explain. When we are in school, our path is pretty much determined for us. We go from grade 1 to grade 2, all the way, hopefully, to matric. Once we have reached the end of our academic schooling career, we pursue another predetermined path, college or some other tertiary education. Alternatively, we may even end up taking a role in the family business, or doing some ad hoc travel jobs. We try to avoid sitting with our own existential crisis at such a ripe age, by leaning towards others to provide us with a path, a direction. It is easy for us to choose this, because if it does not work out, then guess what? We can blame those external guides. We can blame the other, not the self. Unfortunately, there is only so much avoidance you can manage before your psyche slams on the brakes, sits you down, and forces you to take a good, hard look at your life. This often manifests as depression, a state where your mind drains your energy to make you sit still and reevaluate. You are no longer on the right path, and this existential depression saps your zest, motivation, and drive because you are climbing the wrong bloody ladder. You are not lost. You are between versions of yourself. The fog you feel is your mind rearranging its light, and though you can't see it yet, you are exactly where you're supposed to be, becoming who you're meant to become. Feeling lost isn't the end of your story. It's the space where your next one begins. Awareness is freedom.